welcome back to the So There I Was podcast. I'm your host again, Travis Womack. Today's guest is Nick Mastrovito, or Mastrovito if you're in the U.S., as we talked about. Nick is a 30-year retired veteran of the U.S. Army and Reserve and active duty a little bit, and some time in Special Forces. And I'm sure we're going to be in for a real treat today on some shenanigans that have taken place in the Desert Storm days of SF, or anything that involves jumping out of planes and kicking in doors and blowing stuff up. So, Nick, welcome.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you, Travis. I'm glad to be here.
So I know you've done a whole lot of work and some other, just crazy adventures you've been on, but let's just start there, man. Tell me a little about your career and where it all started.
I graduated from college, came into the Army as an infantry officer. Interesting story. I was always told, and obviously it's not true, I was always told that two brothers could not serve together in the same battalion, but I and my brother served in the same infantry battalion in Germany. A couple of years ahead of me. There was always some friction there because he always outranked me, and I really didn't care because he was my brother. And even though he was my older brother, I still really didn't care about the fact that, well, he was a captain and I was a lieutenant. Yeah, whatever. We're living together, and I'm not calling you sir at home. Sorry. And I had a battalion XO that actually said, you need to be respectful to your brother. And I'm like, yeah, that's just not going to happen. I left the infantry, went Special Forces, and that was actually a time of my life. And I will tell you this, just in general, and you probably can relate to this, Travis. The lieutenant and captain years in the Army are the phenomenal years, because once you get past captain and now you're a major or lieutenant colonel, it's not nearly as much fun because people expect you to kind of be an adult. And so some of the shenanigans you do in your early career, you can't get away with. But the other thing is, it's fun because you're at the ground level. You're not too far away from where the rubber meets the road. And so all the things that your soldiers experience, you experience very closely because you're there with them.
Absolutely.
And, when you become a major and lieutenant colonel and above, you're kind of so far away from the ground level that it's not nearly as fun.
I always joke that majors are the officer version of E4s, the E4 mafia.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like they're supposed to be responsible, but they also know all the rules to break.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No kidding.
So when'd you go to the Q course?
I went to the Q course in early '90 and graduated. I went SF because of Russian, and I wanted to go to 10th group. That was my, it's like, hey, if I can go to 10th group, I'll go Special Forces. And another interesting story. My father retired as a command sergeant major. He was an infantry guy his entire career. He was a paratrooper in Korea. And after the Korean War, SF, so we're talking 1952, the start of SF. SF recruited him because he was airborne, he was infantry, and he had a CIB.
Yep.
And he said, well, if I can go to 10th group, I'm in. If I can't go to 10th group, don't count on me. And they didn't want him because in 10th group, they had all the old German soldiers that knew what the Russians were like. And my father was, 12 during World War II, not 20 during World War II. And so they were going to send my father to Fort Bragg and go to 77th group or, whatever. And my dad was like, yep, not interested. And so when I came into SF, I came into SF to go to 10th group, and I got promised 10th group. I went through the Q course, and I got my orders at the end of the course, and they were for the 5th group. And I was like, well, I came in for 10th group. You're sending me to 5th group. There's a problem here. Did you guys forget math or something? And they're like, hey, this is what the Army needs, and we don't really care what you want to do. This is what we need you to do. Now, I'm glad I went to 5th group. I went to Fort Campbell, 3rd Battalion, 5th Group, just stood up when I got there. I had been out of the country. I graduated from the Q course, went out of the country for a couple of weeks. And I came back and I signed in the fifth group, and they said, "Hey, we're on alert for to deploy to Kuwait." And I said, "Well, what's going on in Kuwait?" And they're like, "Well, haven't you been watching the news?" It was 1990. It was
Yeah.
August 1990. And I was like, "No, I've been out of the country. The last thing I'm going to do is, read the newspaper, because this is pre-internet days."
Oh yeah.
And
Significantly.
they're like, "Hey, we're expecting Iraq to attack into Kuwait imminently, so we're on alert." But the problem was, 3rd Battalion, 5th Group really didn't exist. 3rd Battalion, 5th Group had been at Fort Bragg. They stood up 1st Battalion, 3rd Group, and so when they cased the 3rd Battalion, 5th Group colors and moved into Fort Bragg, or moved into Fort Campbell, there really wasn't anybody in 3rd or the 5th. And so the exciting part was, most of everyone that was on my team were new, including myself. I mean, I'm not going to say, I was not an old hand. I had a couple old hands on my team. And we went through some growing pains. We were a mounted special forces team that I came from mechanized infantry, so I understood maintenance, I understood logistics, and I understood mounted operations. And then we ended up deploying, and like I said in our preamble, when the idle hands of soldiers create problems, and that's no different in special forces.
Absolutely.
And so there were quite a few times where, did we do things exactly the way we should have done them? Probably not. And there were a couple of times where, yeah, we probably should have had some adult supervision with us. And you would have thought that, here's 12 guys, all NCOs and an officer, and there'd be plenty of adult supervision there, but not really.
Nope.
So you can imagine what happens from there.
Oh yeah, there's always, I always joke that if you get enough of any rank in one room, they all become privates.
Yes, absolutely. That's absolutely true.
Because
Absolutely.
the responsibility of having to be professional or be the adult responsible one in the room goes away, because you get a bunch of E7s and E8s. You're like, hey, I bet you won't kick over that tree. That's all it takes. So
yeah, absolutely. So I've got a couple of stories
absolutely
that are like that. I mean, none of them are horrible. I mean, I remember my company commander telling me a story that when he was a detachment commander, when he was an SF detachment commander, where he and his team were at Fort Bragg, and there was a commanders conference with the commanding general of, first SOCOM, whatever it was called back in those days. And they decided they were going to go do a snatch, and they were going to kidnap the commanding general of first SOCOM. And I'm like, yeah,
not a good idea.
I don't think that was a great idea. That was an idea, not a great one.
Yeah. We just call that paper rock dumb.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. I mean, we did things like, we advised Kuwaiti brigade. I've been advised not to talk bad about the Kuwaiti military, so I'm not going to talk bad about the Kuwaiti military. But it was Ramadan, and they weren't doing a whole lot, so we had to entertain ourselves. We're supposed to be advising them, but if they're sleeping all day long, we're not really doing a whole lot of advising.
Yeah.
And so we're on the Doha Spur. We were assigned a sector within Kuwait City after the Gulf War, and there was a perfect range there. Now, if range condemned it, but fortunately we didn't have range control. And we're special forces guys. We know how to shoot weapons. We know how to figure out all this stuff, supposedly. So, we're having a good time shooting everything that we own, plus everything that the Iraqis own. And we had 60mm mortars, we had RPG-7s, we had AGS-17s, we had all kinds of cool weapons. And we also had a couple of Swedish anti-tank rockets, not AT-4s, but there was one specifically that would fire a tracer round, and then you push another button and it would fire the actual rocket. And couldn't figure out how to make that work. So we ended up just blowing it up because we didn't want, we didn't want a Kuwaiti kid to show up and
Push
blow
the button.
themselves up.
Yeah.
That was something that was a true danger. But one day we found a bunch of B-40 hand grenades, and we thought, let's throw some hand grenades. Now, to be perfectly honest, you throw a hand grenade a couple of times and
it's boring.
You're done, right? It's like, okay, yeah, got it, understand, no big deal. But we couldn't just throw a couple of hand grenades. As a matter of fact, our goal was to see how many hand grenades we could throw that day. And then it got to the point where we started getting dangerous, where, we grabbed as many grenades we could in our hand, pulled the pins, and then just throw them. Now we were in a dugout, so there was the Iraqis had built dugouts for their tanks so that they were expecting the Marines. They were expecting the Marines to do an amphibious landing, so they had tanks right on the beach in dugouts, whole defilade, so they could shoot at the amphibious
assault vehicles.
Vehicles, right. And so we were standing in this thing. I mean, this thing is like over our head, and we're throwing grenades over into the water, and they're blowing up. And these are Eastern Bloc grenades, so that we don't know. They're not all exploding. We know that, not a big deal. Throwing grenades. We're getting to the point where we're tired of throwing grenades, and then all of a sudden, I hear "oops," and that's really not a good thing to hear on a grenade range, right? And so it's like slow motion. So we're all tossing our grenades and then trying to get out of that pit that is over our head as quickly as possible. And the beauty is that grenade did not explode. It just popped and fizzed open, and we were done. And it was like, and so I'm like, now being the responsible detachment commander, I'm the captain. I'm like, all right, guys, we're done close enough. We're done. We're not gonna do this anymore. We're done. We're gonna go. We're gonna pack our stuff up. We're gonna go back to, our brigade and be good. My junior medic, though, came from the Ranger Battalion. He was like, "Come on, sir. We won't be dangerous anymore. We'll just throw a couple more grenades. We'll be fine." And I was like, "Okay, how can that hurt? Not a big deal. Yeah, sure." So I'm like, "Well, we're not going to throw them over into the water anymore. Let's just, pick up a grenade, throw it. Everything will be beautiful. It'll be kind of like we're on a U.S. Army range. We're ready on the left, ready on the right, ready in the center. That kind of thing." And of course, we didn't do any of that. And so my junior medic, this young redhead, probably 25 years old, stud, he finds a little hole in the ground, and he's like, "Hey, let's start tossing grenades in this hole." And it's a little spider hole. So unfortunately, we got a little too dangerous again. Now, there was no oops in that one, fortunately, but at some point I was like, "Okay, we're done. I'm not participating, and I'm not going to write letters to all of your family members to say how
you're screwing around with grenades on the beach."
Yeah, exactly. So fortunately, we all came back from that escapade. Maybe a little scared, but nobody dead, nobody injured. So it was a good day. A few days later, and incidentally, on this natural range that we had, and there were a bunch of Iraqi mini ASPs, mini ammo supply points all around. It was on the Doha Spur, so it's a flat little piece of land in Kuwait City. And what the Iraqis had done is they had hidden their munitions in the spur. They put a lean-to on top of it, so from the air it looked like it was just flat desert. And then they had hidden, hidden munitions down there. And so every day we'd go down there and see what was down there. There were also some tanks on the Doha Spur, and the CIA had come out and said, "Hey, we want to go recover these tanks. So we're going to come out one day. Just tell us what you got out there, blah, blah, blah. And we're like, okay, we've got 4 T-55 tanks in relatively good condition, no battle damage. And so one day, my intel sergeant, who was a demo guy, my team sergeant, who was a demo guy, all 3 of my weapons guys all decide, and my actual engineer, my actual demo sergeant, all decided, hey, we're going to we had some demo that we wanted to get rid of. We had a bunch of other ordnance that we wanted to get rid of because we couldn't turn in.
Mm-hmm.
And so like, hey, we're going to go out to the range. We're going to blow stuff up. We're going to be right back. Not a big deal. And I was like, okay, not a problem. They go out and they're gone for an awfully long time, but not a big deal. It's like, hey, nothing else is going on. It's Ramadan. Okay.
Right.
And then I hear this massive explosion, and they're 5 miles away from me. And I hear this explosion, and I'm like, what in the hell is going on?
And this is how we make the news.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, oh God, I am going to be writing letters to family members about how their loved one died in the Gulf War, fighting in the Gulf War. And so what had happened is they went out and they found a tank, and they had, we had a bunch of C4 detonators. We had some other stuff that we wanted to get rid of. And so they got into a tank, and they were like, hey, well, we'll just take all the rounds out of this tank and we'll just blow the tank up. We'll put all our demo in the turret, and we'll just blow that up. Unfortunately, when there's, I don't know, I think there's 40 rounds in a T-55 tank, and they were like, this is a lot of work. Why don't we just do
it in place,
and we'll blow it up. Yeah, and that's what they did. And needless to say, there was nothing left of the tank when they were done. And my senior weapons sergeant, who's also an artist, and he takes a lot of pictures. I remember he took some pictures, and at another event, he had an album out of his pictures, and those pictures of the explosion of this tank were how we destroyed a tank during the Gulf War. Now, if you didn't know the backstory, you would have thought that, well, we shot an AT-4 or an anti-tank round at this tank, but no, we blew it up internally by daisy chaining, a bunch of C4
together.
yeah. So, but that day that was a day that I was actually worried about writing letters home, because I was like, oh my God. Like I said, we were about 5 miles away, and we heard the explosion and the concussion, and I tried to reach him on the radio, and I couldn't reach him on the radio. And I was like, oh man, this is not a good day. And fortunately, about an hour, they showed back up, and I was like, hey, did you guys hear that explosion? And they're like, what explosion? And I was like, you guys were there blowing stuff up. And they're like, yeah, that was us. That was us. And I was like, well, and then, a couple of days later, the CIA showed up and said, I thought you said there were 4 tanks out here. And we're like, oh, did we say 4? I think we meant 3. I don't know where you, yeah. So, yeah, I mean,
that's awesome.
The great thing about Special Forces is, these guys are highly trained. They're serious. They know their business. Yeah. But when you leave them to their own devices, sometimes I do have one other story. So we had an AGS-17, an automatic grenade launcher, Soviet bloc automatic grenade launcher. Our Mark 19 automatic grenade launcher has a minimum arming distance of 35 meters. The AGS-17 has a minimum arming distance of 0 meters. So the minute that 30 millimeter round comes out, it's hot. Yes. So we wanted to shoot. We had a team that had an SBG-7. We wanted to fire that. So we traded our AGS-17 for the AGS-7, and they decided this weapon, the AGS-17, will go up to 0 degrees, so straight up. And they cranked it up to 0 degrees and then fired it. And a couple of SF guys got hurt. Yeah. Now
Yeah.
they weren't seriously injured, but they were injured. And after that, there was a decree that you will not fire any more foreign weapons, period, because
Right.
you guys are not range certified, blah, blah, blah,
Right.
et cetera, and so sometimes also in the midst of the shenanigans, stupid things happen, and then
Something gets hurt.
someone gets hurt, and
Yeah.
then guess what? The powers that be say, okay, no more stupid stuff. Sorry, you're done. We gave you the opportunity, and you've proven that you're not capable to handle the opportunity. So
It's
anyway,
funny. You talk about the history of soldiers doing that. Like, I always, when I hear stories like that, where they're good or bad or injury, no injury, I'm like, this is going on back in the Revolutionary days, where someone's
oh
like,
yeah,
oh, someone's like, hey, John, hey, I bet you won't put 2 packets of powder in your gun.
yeah,
Like, I mean,
exactly,
it's
yeah,
like, we got nothing. The Brits aren't here yet. Let's just see what happens. Oh crap! It blew up your musket. And I always imagine, it's like,
absolutely.
how does that story from 1776 to today, like, how's that progressed? I'm like, now you can go buy tannerite at the store. I'm like, we Joe can buy this in like 1 pound. How about 2 pounds?
Yeah. How about 10 pounds?
What if we put in a
Yeah,
5-gallon bucket
yeah,
inside of a Yugo? You know,
yeah,
I
exactly,
I got a
exactly.
6.8 Creedmoor. Let's just see what happens. Oh dang, no more Yugo. So it's
Yeah, exactly.
it's
Absolutely. Yeah,
it's
I don't think that I mean, and I think that the minute the military loses that sense of humor, and granted, okay, so sometimes we should be prevented from doing stupid things,
oh yeah,
but most of the time it's like, hey, we're only going to be stupid to a certain extent. And I think that the time, that when the military loses that degree of, hey, we're going to let you be crazy,
oh yeah.
not too crazy. I think if the military loses that, then I think then we're lost.
Oh
I
yeah,
think then
I
we're
agree.
lost.
When I
Yeah.
was a company commander, after about 2 months, it's funny. I reached out to my company commander when I was in E3 and E4. And I just sent him an email. I was like, hey sir, I just wanted to let you know I'm sorry. He's like, for what? I was like, I'm in command now. He's like, oh, so now you know what it's like. I was like, the phone calls I get. I'm like, you can't. The soldier jumped on his ex-girlfriend's hood of her car and rode the hood of the car across base, and I'm like, I can't, like, I'm I'm just trying to enjoy some evening coffee, and I'm getting a phone call, senior soldiers, like, and the girl drove into the MP station. It's like, there's like 4 cops that stand there smoking a cigarette. They're like, pretty sure you're
It
under
doesn't look
arrest.
that bad. Yeah.
So it's just like the stuff that comes up. I'm like, here I was back in the day, ziplining from barracks to barracks, and they bought us a rappel kit. I'm like, we're the scout platoon. And like, what are we gonna do? We're gonna go rappel because, and then Fort Bragg, every building's 3 stories tall, so we just go to the
Yeah.
roof and rappelled off the
Yeah.
building. And staff duty's like, what are y'all doing? We're like, you bought us a rappel kit. This is the tallest thing within 20 miles. So we're going to jump off of it because we're paratroopers and we're pretty stupid. we'll, we'll do anything at least once, until somebody
Yeah,
gets hurt,
exactly.
and then we'll just figure
Yeah,
out what not to do next time. So,
yeah, exactly.
but
Absolutely.
so what do you,
Absolutely.
so you've been retired for a hot minute, Nick. So I know you're currently running shift subject here. That's a big word for me. I know you're doing a lot of work for veterans and veteran recruiting. And I know a lot of the topics we have here on the show talk about the challenges that people have, taking the uniform off, and and how do they quantify kind of their service? Because we're real bad about,
Right.
in my opinion, about, oh, I have these 85 NCOERs or OERs, and it's like, it's a whole lot of he done good, as I like to call it.
Yeah.
And how do you translate that to, like, hey, look, I can, I always joke that I was a recruiter, an Army recruiter when I was enlisted, and people are like, oh, if you're infantry, the only thing you can do is be a security guard. And
Yeah.
I'm like, then you've never been in the infantry. Like, you have no
Right.
idea. Like,
Right.
I was a squad leader of 9 dudes, and from 6 different states and 3 different countries.
Yeah.
And I was like, and some of us didn't like each other because of
whatever.
because Ohio football sucks and Texas football is awesome. That's my opinion.
Exactly. It doesn't
Whatever
matter.
reason, and like in most businesses, and the remote world now is different, but in most, you all live in the same proximity and have the same culture-ish for the most part, and
Yeah.
common stuff. And so it's a matter of taking people that are different race, different religion, different beliefs, different backgrounds, different cultures, everything, and putting them together for a common cause, whatever that cause is that's go to the range or
Absolutely.
that's invade a country, whatever it is. And like, hey, look, and to the point of being willing to die for each other. And, in translating that towards corporate America or local retail, doesn't matter. And where you have to make people who don't like each other get along for a common cause. It's a kind of the foundational part of leadership. That's my theory. I'd love to hear your thoughts on what you've seen and learned and lessons learned.
I agree wholeheartedly. When I left, I left active duty after my captain years the first time, and I went to work. I went to a headhunter. I've got a mechanical engineering degree. I went to a headhunter. They put me with Merck and Company, great company. I loved working for them. I remember at the conference that I was at the hiring conference I was at, I was in a group of people and they said, okay, these are all the Merck people that are going to interview with Merck today. And they said, now here's what's common. And we were all ex-military,
Right.
but they said, okay, so you're either a chemical engineer or you're a chemist. And I was like, I raised my hand. I'm like, yeah, I'm neither. And they're like, oh yeah, Mastrovito. Yeah, you're a special case. I was like, okay, great. I'm glad to hear that. But and I interviewed with Merck. I loved them. I went to work for Merck. My first boss was 10 years younger than me. And I remember, that's always kind of strange, right? Because I'm a first line supervisor. She's a superintendent. She's actually 2 or 3 levels above me, 10 years younger than me. And I remember it wasn't the first day of work, but it was close to the first day of work. I remember we had a problem. The supervisors that were leaving shift had a major problem. They didn't call her, and she was not happy. And afterwards, she took us out to the problem area and proceeded to yell at us for 5 minutes. And I remember we're on an incinerator. We're on the third stack of an incinerator, and I told the other 3 supervisors to go ahead. I held her back, and I said, Marcia, her name was Marcia. I said, Marcia, I know I'm hard of hearing, but here's the thing. I hear better if you don't yell at me.
Yeah.
And she said to me, well, I went to college, I got a degree, and then I came to work for Merck. I have no leadership experience. You just left the military after 10 or 11 years, having led soldiers in combat, et cetera, blah, blah, blah. You know everything about leadership. And so teach me. And I said, and that was a defining moment, because it's, this is what I try to tell everyone that I mentor is, hey, yes, you have a set of skills. You may have gone to college and got a degree in something. You also have some skills that you learned in the military, whatever your MOS was or your branch was.
Mm-hmm.
But the one thing that you probably don't advertise well is your leadership skills.
Yeah.
And it's a really hard one to say, hey, look, I don't know anything about manufacturing, but I know people. I know how to motivate people. I know, just like you said, you've got people, 9 different members of your squad, 6 different states, 3 different countries, different religions, et cetera. And you've got to make that work, right? Because, in the civilian world, if you've got a team of 4 or 5 people, which is normal, it's not 9, it's not 30, it's not 600, it's not 120, it's usually 4 or 5.
It's a fire team.
Yeah, it's a fire team. Yeah. But yet you see in the civilian world that's a really difficult challenge for most leaders, because, it's, hey, I didn't sign up to be a leader. I signed up to be whatever, to do whatever it is, that I'm supposed to do. And I just got thrown into this job because if I want to be a senior so-and-so, senior engineer, well, then that means I have to lead people, but I
Right.
really don't want to lead people. And in my world, I'm a recruiter. I'm an executive recruiter. And I hear this all the time where, hey, I'm recruiting for a lead electrical engineer or a lead software engineer. And I'll have somebody that's got plenty of time, plenty of experience, got all the right credentials, but they're like, hey, I don't want to be in charge of people.
Yeah. Just me and a computer. Right.
Yeah, it's like I want to develop software. I really don't want to. I don't want to be the person that's got to tell someone what to do. I don't want to, and in a lead job, most of the time you're not even writing reviews. You're just
Right.
assigning people work, and they're like, "Yeah, that's too much. I can't handle it.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that."
I don't want
And
to
I
lead
always,
people. I don't want to deal with the customer. Or be
yeah,
the
and
middle.
and I always find that fascinating because it's like, why don't you want to? Why don't you want to do that kind of work? I understand if you've never done it before, but why don't you want to learn and grow? And, here's your opportunity to leave your mark. And here's your opportunity that if you don't like the way your company does things, you're now responsible for doing things the right way in your
Yeah.
company rather than the way they're doing it. So, but it's a very tough sell because
Oh yeah. Well,
it's
so
just it's a hard sell.
on
That's just it.
on that note, though, circling back to what you said at the very beginning about being a captain and a major and how the rank, the responsibility greatly shifts. I think on the enlisted side is feeds that a little bit where there's like for me, people ask me what was your favorite rank. I'm like, man, E6. I had the most fun. I was E3 to E6, and then I was a O1 to O4, and E6 was because it was for me, it was the last time that I could truly have influence, direct influence on specific people. As a lieutenant at a platoon, you just like leave charts and maintenance schedules and stuff that's just kind of chaotic and stuff. And then as a company commander, I was in the old guard, and it's just the calendar drove your life. It's just you
Right.
logged on like, there's not a whole lot of white on here for what I want to do. It's just blue and red and green everywhere, right? For different things at the old guard. And so I remember thinking back like, but there's a lot of people I know very well that um that love to be just an E4. Like it's the best rank in the army, I think,
Right.
because
Right.
it's you can completely sham and people are like, oh, they're an E4. Or you can be a complete stud and be like, oh, it's a good E4. And it's like you get the same response, but you're not directly or legally responsible for anybody,
Right.
and
Right.
and I think a lot of people, I used to teach to my soldiers and stuff like E5 in the infantry, at least. Every MOS is a little bit different, but the infantry's E5 is the greatest responsibility because you have a fire team of 5. You have you plus 4, and
Right.
you're directly responsible for those 4. If you're a squad leader, I'm directly
Right.
responsible to 2 team leaders. So I'm only have to keep track of 2. They have to keep
Yeah.
track of their people, or and then if you're a platoon sergeant, you're in track of 4 squad leaders. So it's like
Right.
and as it goes on, but I was like it's interesting to see soldiers that do and seek and pursue promotion, 1 for money and 2 for responsibility, and there's people that are like, yeah, I'm good, and I think
Yeah.
there's to understand what that means when they go to someone like you and say, hey, I need a job. It's like, well, what is it you're trying to do? It's like, oh, if I don't have to be in charge of anybody, I'm okay with that. And but
Yeah.
be honest about it, because
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think someone in your position is like, look, you were 20 years in the army. It's like we're kind of expecting wherever you're going at this pay grade to be in charge of people. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
a reality check for sure. I think for most people, and I think that's the biggest thing I've learned is just be honest. Like, look,
Right.
and
Absolutely.
I think people struggle with it. Go ahead.
Yeah. And the other thing, I think that the Army, I don't know Navy, Marine Corps, Air Force, but I think the Army does a gross disservice to our transitioning veterans, whether they're retiring or they're ETSing, whether they've spent 30 years in the military or spent 3 years in the military. I don't think our transitioning services are all that great because I see a lot of people, I see a lot of special forces guys, uh, retiring NCOs that have a certified professional CPDs for certified professional director accreditation, like
Yeah.
like kind of like a
Some
PMP. And it's like, yeah, that's great, but there aren't a ton of jobs out there that are looking for that type of certificate.
Yeah.
Uh,
I would have to not to jump on you. I would have to defend it just a little bit. And
okay.
there's a lot of me on this that I actually blame the soldier a lot of the times.
Okay.
Um,
Absolutely.
because for me, I look at myself, and that's not to toot my own horn by any means. Is like the Army gives you tuition assistance, to pay for college while you're in. It's $4,500 a year. And as a commander, I was in charge of 138 people. It was the highest my 162 ever was. I had 3 soldiers actively using tuition assistance, and they all
Oh,
had access to it. And
yeah.
I couldn't deny it, but I could see the reports of like, hey, this is
Yeah.
the money going out.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I have 3 soldiers. And I told every single kid, I'm like, look, if you come to me and say, hey, I want to take a class Tuesdays and Thursdays at 10 o'clock on campus, I will approve it. I won't,
Yeah.
I won't,
That's a
I'm
good
not,
point. That's a great point.
and so like stuff like that's just not used. I'm like, I use TA as enlisted on active duty recruiting and finished my bachelor's degree. And then while I was in command, I finished my master's degree, and using TA for all that. And then the transition stuff, the skill bridge and the Soldier for Life program, there's a lot of stuff that I think there's and it's not the program's fault. And it's not the soldier's fault. I think it's somewhere in between
Yeah.
where I think people get out and they're kind of like for lack of better terms, kind of like damn the man. Like their blinders are on, like I'm just getting out, I'm getting out, I'm getting out. And
Yeah.
like all they
Yeah.
see is that checklist of like what gets the checks to get the signature to get me out of here. And they miss like Soldier for Life does a great job of like, hey, here's how to build a resume. And they just do the bare minimum, get the resume 1 page, get the signature, and they roll. And I'm like, no, you missed the other 25 classes that you could get for free,
Yeah.
And
And that's I don't argue that.
yeah,
I think the problem that I see is um the expectations.
yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
The expectations are, I mean, I'll tell you this, my dad's retired command sergeant major. His part is woodpecker lips, Korean vet, Vietnam vet, paratrooper,
Oh, yeah.
been there, done that, got the t-shirt, threw away the t-shirt. And I remember when I told him, hey, I'm resigning from active duty. And he's like, well, what do you, here I'm infantry special forces officer. And he's like, well, what are you going to do? Be a cop? And I'm like, oh, hell no. Those guys get shot at 10
Yeah.
times more than an infantry or special forces guys get shot at. But I was like, hey, I already had a career path. Like I said, I had an engineering degree, so that made it easier for me. I graduated from West Point. That made it easier for me.
Yep.
And then I went to a military headhunter, and they put me in with a great company. I had it easy. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not.
It's all good.
Not going to argue that one bit that it was easy for me, but I do see, the people that you're talking about. I do see them, and they are successful. It's the ones that don't take advantage of everything. I mean, I'm working with a guy right now. He's an Air Force vet, 100% disabled. He was a firefighter in the Air Force, and I've made a ton of different suggestions to him, and he's like, well, I don't want to work for the government. I don't want to work on a contract. Right. I don't want to do this. And it's like, well, but here's the thing. I remember in 2013, I was on a contract in Djibouti. I left the contract after a year, came back, and I was unemployed for 9 months.
Yeah.
Here I am. I've got a master's degree. I've got a bachelor's degree. I think I've got a pretty good resume. And I told him, I was like, hey, it's a numbers game. And I wasn't willing to relocate. So that was part of my issue was, hey, I'm in this particular location. I'm not really interested in relocating. And so, yeah, I realize it's much tougher for me because there are fewer jobs in the area that I'm living in. But if you're willing to relocate, then you've got to lower your expectations because of you don't want to be in the firefighting arena. You don't want to be in the military arena. You're trying to go completely different. And I told him, I was like, look, I left the Army with 11 years, captain promotable in the Army. And I started out as a first line supervisor.
Right.
You're not a captain. You're not leaving the Air Force as a captain. And you have these high expectations. And I said, you need to dial down your expectations, but you need to be resilient. You need to understand that, hey, this is going to take some time, but you've got to keep plugging away, and eventually you'll get to where you want to get to.
Yeah, but honesty and kind of a realistic expectations is the key, because I think people, it's not what you want to do. I think that matters so much. It's what do you not want to do that makes that funnel real small,
Right.
real quick.
Yeah.
And if you want to get it completely do a 180, it's like, well, I got a master's degree in marketing, and I was, LG officer. If I come at you and say, hey, I don't want to do logistics, I don't want to do marketing, it's like, well, I've got to start at the bottom probably.
Yeah.
I mean,
but I also want to do one quick pitch. Franchising and small businesses. I mean, you've got your own small business.
Yep.
I've got my own small business. I also own a franchise. I think that military people are extremely adept at starting their own small businesses, or if you can do it my way. I'm too lazy to. I've started several companies, not successfully. I've had two companies that I've just closed.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say they didn't go in default. I closed, but I also bought a franchise, and I also have a successful company now. I think that military people are extremely adept at those kinds of roles, and I wish that somehow we could figure out how to translate that to transitioning people, because I've talked to a lot of transitioning officers, senior officers, and I'm like, hey, have you thought about buying a franchise, or have you thought about starting your own consulting company?
Yeah.
And usually the response I get is they're scared.
Yeah, it's a security issue, probably.
They've never been in as independent as military are. Now all of a sudden they don't have an umbrella, and they're scared.
That's a big umbrella, though.
Well, that's very true. Very large umbrella. Absolutely.
Yeah. If you got kids, and insurance is a big thing too. So it's definitely a thing there. So for anybody else out there listening, I definitely would encourage you to, one day, no matter what, if you're currently wearing the uniform, the day will come to an end, at some point. So start now, and by all means, finish your education, certificates, and just kind of like reality of what do you do and don't want to do. And there's great people out there like Nick who would love to talk to you and help you out, and get you plugged in, coming out of service for sure. Or call me. I'll gladly talk to you, though I'm not a recruiter, so I don't have any connections to other businesses, but I can definitely coach you to the goal line of where you want to go. So, but Nick, it's been a lot of fun. The stories, I love SF stories because they're always crazy and shenanigans, and the Army of the 90s is a totally different beast. As you're just telling these stories, I'm like the way you're describing the alignment of the units and stuff, just the small things. I'm like, man, it's completely different. It's crazy. And it's kind of how it's just, I came in 03 to now, and how it's just slowly rolled along, and it's changed and changed and changed. But at the end of the day, it's still Joe is Joe, and we will do something crazy and dumb, and hopefully nobody gets hurt. But been a lot of fun. We'll have to get you back on sometime, and I'm sure you have more than just those few grenade stories and blowing some stuff up. But if you're a new listener, by all means, please subscribe, and we'd love to get you on the show as a guest as well. If you're a veteran of any branch, any era of, I don't care if it's World War II or Korea, Vietnam, or anything in between, but we'd love to have you on the show. Just reach out to me on WOMACC3.com, and we'll go from there. But Nick, thanks a lot, and a whole lot of fun.
Thank you so much, Travis. It's been a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed it.
Absolutely.